Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading for May 12th, and I'm reading 2 Chronicles 6 through 8. Verse 1. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has said that he would dwell in thick darkness, but I have built you a house and a home, a place for you to dwell forever. The king turned his face and blessed all the assembly of Israel, and all the assembly of Israel stood. He said, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to David my father, and has with his hands fulfilled it, saying, Since the day that I brought my people out of the land of Egypt, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Israel to build a house in, that my name might be there. And I chose no man to be prince over my people Israel. But now I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. But Yahweh said to David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build a house, but your son who will come out of your body, he will build a house for my name. Yahweh has performed his word that he spoke, for I have risen up in the place of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel, as Yahweh promised, and have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. There I have set the ark, which is Yahweh's covenant, which he made with the children of Israel. He stood before Yahweh's altar in the presence of all the assembly of Israel and spread out his hands. For Solomon had made a bronze platform, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide and 3 cubits high, and had set it in the middle of the court, and he stood on it, and knelt down on his knees before all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward heaven. And he said, Yahweh, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven or on earth. You who keep covenant and loving kindness with your servants who walk before you with all their heart, who have kept with your servant David my father that which you promised him. Yes, you spoke with your mouth, and you have fulfilled it with your hand, as it is today. Now therefore, Yahweh, the God of Israel, keep with your servant David my father that which you have promised him, saying, There shall not fail you a man in my sight to sit on the throne of Israel, if only your children take heed to their walk, to walk in my law, as you have walked before me. Now therefore, Yahweh, the God of Israel, let your word be verified, which you spoke to your servant David. But will God indeed dwell with men on earth? Behold, heaven and the heaven of heavens can't contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet have respect for the prayer of your servant and to his supplication, Yahweh my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you. That your eyes may be open toward this house day and night, even toward the place where you have said that you would put your name, to listen to the prayer which your servant will pray toward this place. Listen to the petitions of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Yes, hear from your dwelling place, even from heaven, and when you hear, forgive. If a man sins against his neighbor, and an oath is laid on him to cause him to swear, and he comes and swears before your altar in this house, then hear from heaven, act and judge your servants. Bring retribution to the wicked, to bring his way on his own head, and justify the righteous, to give him according to his righteousness. If your people Israel are struck down before the enemy because they have sinned against you, and they turn again and confess your name and pray and make supplication before you in this house, then hear from heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them again to the land which you gave them and their fathers. When the sky is shut up and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, if they pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin when you afflict them, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your servants of the people Israel, when you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and you send rain on your land which you have given to your people for an inheritance. If there is a famine in the land, if there is pestilence, if there is blight or mildew, locust or caterpillar, if their enemies besiege them in the land of the cities, whatever plague or whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer and supplication is made by any man or by all your people Israel, who will each know his own plague and his own sorrow, and shall spread out his hands toward this house, then hear from heaven your dwelling place, and forgive, and render to every man according to all his ways, whose heart you know. For you, even you only, know the hearts of the children of men, that they may fear you to walk in your ways, so long as they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Moreover, concerning the foreigner who is not of your people Israel, and when he comes from a far country for your great name's sake, and your mighty hand and your outstretched arm, when they come and pray toward this house, then hear from heaven, even from your dwelling place, and do according to all that the foreigner calls to you for, that all the people of the earth may know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by your name. If your people go out to battle against their enemies, by whatever way you send them, and they pray toward you, to you toward this city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then hear from heaven their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against you, for there is no man who doesn't sin, and you are angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captive to a land far off or near, yet if they come to their senses in the land where they are carried captive, and turn again and make supplication to you in the land of their captivity, saying, We have sinned, we have done perversely, and have dealt wickedly. If they return to you with all their heart, with all their soul in the land of their captivity, where they have carried them captive, and pray toward the land which you gave to their fathers, and the city to which you have chosen, toward the house which I have built for your name, then hear from heaven, even your dwelling place, their prayer and their petitions, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. Now, my God, let, I beg you, your eyes be open, and let your ears be attentive to the prayer that is made in this place. Now, therefore, arise, Yahweh, into your resting place, you and your ark of your strength. Let your priests, Yahweh God, be clothed with salvation, and your saints rejoice with goodness. Yahweh God, don't turn away the face of your anointed. Remember your loving kindness to David, your servant. Now, when Solomon had finished praying, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and Yahweh's glory filled the house. Can you imagine that? Now, I've been in various different places, both small room, a small vehicle, all the way up to auditoriums, big auditoriums, hotel lobbies, etc., outdoor venues where the presence of God was palpable, excuse me, felt. At times where you could hear any sound, but no sound came. Absolute silence, they call a holy hush. Not a shuffle, not a clearing of the throat, not a child sound, not a sniffle. It's really an amazing experience. But I'm pretty sure none of that. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. I've been in situations where the presence and the Spirit of God came in such a manifest way that you couldn't stand before it. Tears flowing down people's faces. It has an effect that you don't see in any other situation. But anyway, I'm pretty sure none of that compares to what happened here when, you can imagine Solomon's praying on behalf of the people on this platform, on his knees, crying out to God with sincerity. I'm pretty sure at this point he's floored because he's looking back at what God did, how God was faithful through it all, even though there were so many times he doubted or he struggled, right? Or he came up against challenges. So anyway, and he prays that, and all of a sudden he stops and he's quiet, and a fire comes down, a literal fire. I guess it would be kind of like lightning or just a poof, and consumed the entire offering and sacrifices, and enveloped everyone with that felt presence. Sure, they were all on their faces. Amazing, just amazing. And amazing that we have a better covenant today than they did, the Bible says. Verse 2, 7:2. The priest could not enter into Yahweh's house because Yahweh's glory filled Yahweh's house. All the children of Israel looked on when the fire came down and Yahweh's glory was on the house. They bowed themselves with their faces to the ground, on the pavement, worshipped, and gave thanks to Yahweh, saying, now see, I was one time it was a hockey auditorium where they were having a service, and concrete floors. And this was one where the presence of God was so strong in every service. Even an hour before service, people were up at the altar, laying on their faces on that cold, dirty concrete floor, just worshiping God, because all you could do, it's such a humbling experience. All you could do is just get low in God's presence. Not that he expects people to lay down on their faces in the dirt, you know what I mean? But it's just that you're just that awestruck and humbled. And it's the fear of the Lord, the realization of the power. And it's just a taste of God's love and power. And it's not a fearful thing as in like horror or a nightmare or, a spirit of fear. It's a fear as in, like I said, awestruck, and this great love, a sense of love and being loved. So anyway, let me move on. I love that subject. So it said they bowed themselves with their faces on the ground on the pavement, worshipped, and gave thanks to Yahweh, saying, "For he is good, for his loving kindness endures forever." Then the king and all the people offered sacrifices before Yahweh. King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 head of cattle and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people dedicated God's house. The priests stood according to the positions, the Levites also with instruments of music of Yahweh, which David the king had made to give thanks to Yahweh, when David praised by their ministry, saying, "For his loving kindness endures forever." The priests sounded trumpets before them, and all Israel stood. Moreover, Solomon made the middle of the court that was before Yahweh's house holy, for there he offered burnt offerings and the fat of peace offerings, because the bronze altar which Solomon had made was not able to receive the burnt offering, the meal offering, and the fat. So Solomon held the feast at that time for 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great assembly, from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt. On the 8th day they held a solemn assembly, for they kept the dedication of the altar 7 days, and feast 7 days. On the 23rd day of the 7th month he sent the people away to their tents, joyful and glad of heart, for the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David and to Solomon and to Israel his people. Thus Solomon finished Yahweh's house and the king's house, and he successfully completed all that came into Solomon's heart to make in Yahweh's house and in his own house. Yahweh appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, "I have heard your prayer and chosen this place for myself and for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up the sky so that there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and made this house holy, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for me, if you will walk before me as David your father walked, and do all according to that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom according as I covenanted with David your father, saying, there shall not fail you a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will pluck them up by the roots of my land which I have given them, and this house which I made holy for my name, I will cast out of my sight, and will make it a proverb and a byword among the peoples. This house which is so high, every one who passes by it will be astonished, and shall say, why has Yahweh done this to this land and to this house? They shall answer, because they abandoned Yahweh, the God of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and took other gods, worshipped them, and served them. Therefore he has brought all this evil on them. At the end of 20 years in which Solomon had built Yahweh's house and his own house, Solomon built the cities which Hiram had given to Solomon, and caused the children of Israel to dwell there. Solomon went to Hamath Zobah and prevailed against it. He built Tadmor in the wilderness and all the storage cities which he had built at Hamath. He also built Beth-horon the upper and Beth-horon the lower, fortified cities with walls, gates, and bars, and Baalath and all the storage cities that Solomon had, and all the cities for his chariots, the cities for his horsemen, and all that Solomon desired to build for his pleasure in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. As for all the people who were left of the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, who were not of Israel, of their children who were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel didn't consume, of them Solomon conscripted forced labor to this day. But of the children of Israel Solomon made no servants for his work, but they were men of war, chief of his captains, rulers of his chariots, and of his horsemen. These were the chief officers of King Solomon, even 250 who ruled over the people. Solomon brought up Pharaoh's daughter out of David's city to the house where he had built for her, for he said, my wife shall not dwell in the house of David king of Israel, because the places where Yahweh's ark has come are holy. Then Solomon offered burnt offerings to Yahweh on Yahweh's altar, which he had built before the porch, even as the duty of every day required, offering according to the commandment of Moses on the Sabbaths, on the new moons, and on the set feasts, 3 times per year, during the feast of unleavened bread, during the feast of weeks, and during the feast of booths. He appointed, according to the ordinances of David his father, the divisions of the priests to their service, and the Levites to their offices, to praise and to minister before the priests, as the duty of every day required, the doorkeepers also by their divisions at every gate, for David the man of God had so commanded. They didn't depart from the commandment of the king to the priests and Levites concerning any matter, or concerning the treasuries. Now all the work of Solomon was prepared from the day of the foundation of Yahweh's house until it was finished. So Yahweh's house was completed. Then Solomon went to Ezion-Geber and to Eloth on the seashore of the land of Edom. Hiram sent him ships and servants who had knowledge of the sea by the hands of his servants, and they came up with the servants of Solomon to Ophir and brought from there 450 talents of gold and brought them to King Solomon. Now, remember I said that Pastor, why does his name always slip my mind? Give me a sec. I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, he wrote a book about the gold of Ophir and said that he believes that that gold, oh, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. Ron Phillips, that's it. Okay, so let me start over. Pastor Ron Phillips wrote a book about this gold of Ophir, and it makes the argument that this gold of Ophir was from America. And it's a very interesting theory if you want to look into it. I think he has like a little CD on it and a book. I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, I always like to bring that up because I love that little tidbit. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.